Hi, I'm Tina Lucas. I'm your 2012 President of the Maine Association of Realtors. First, I'd like to say congratulations on your decision to become a realtor and welcome to one of the largest professional organizations in the world. At Realtors, one of the key distinctions between an ordinary licensee and a realtor is our code of ethics. When you became a realtor, you took a pledge. You took a pledge to be honorable and honest in all dealings and to practice the golden rule. In the Realtor organization, we take that very seriously, and we have an enforcement procedure. If you should ever have a problem during your career, you can call your local or state organization or your national organization and get some guidance on how to find resolution to that problem. When you pay your dues annually, which I think is very reasonable, you're paying for 3 levels of membership. You're paying for your membership and advocacy at the National Association of Realtor level, the Maine Association of Realtor level, and your local board and council level. At the National Association of Realtors, you're going to have 2 sites that are going to benefit you. Realtor.com, which is the #1 site for real estate in the world. You'll find Realtor.org, the login site. That's a site for you to find educational tools and information and marketing tools and information that's prepared specifically to help you and your everyday business. At the federal level, National Association of Realtors has a very strong voice. And you know, in Washington, it's very often the housing issues are on the table. We are working to protect private property rights and the rights of home ownership on a daily basis. And part of what you pay in your dues goes toward that advocacy that benefits all of us. At the Maine Association of Realtors, you're going to have access to zip forms. There you'll find the contracts, addendums, and a clause library to help you with the paperwork that you're going to be using daily in your business. In addition to that, you have 2 hotlines that you can access. We have a legal hotline where you can call and leave that important question and get a same-day answer from Linda Gifford. The tech hotline you can call with any issues with your mobile devices, your software, your hardware, your laptop, and they'll be able to help walk you through that problem. You'll have marketing information, you have educational opportunities, and you have networking opportunities at the annual convention. In addition, go to mainerealtors.com login site, the site specifically for you, and you'll find a myriad of member benefits available to help you as well. Believe it or not, there's more. You'll also have membership in your local board or council. There you'll find regular membership meetings that you can attend, and oftentimes those meetings will include educational programs at little or no cost to you. Your local board or council will often organize charity events, and you can participate in that and gain a presence in your community. You'll be able to network with those realtors that you work with or will work with in the future and get to know the affiliates that are sponsoring these events. In addition, you can contact your local board AE or your local council president if you have an issue, and they can point you in the right direction. Now let's talk about the word realtor and the correct pronunciation. I really would like you to think about that. It is a 2-syllable word, realtor. And if you hear someone saying realtor, please, in a gentle way, remind them, 2 syllables, realtor. Thank you. I'm so proud and honored to be your 2012 Maine Association of Realtors President. I look forward to meeting and working with all of you throughout your real estate career.
Hi, my name is Linda Gifford. I am legal counsel to the Maine Association of Realtors. I have a law firm in Augusta. I am here today as part of your new member orientation, and I've been asked to provide some information to you on 3 legal topics which you need to learn about, and you have some of the information in front of you in your orientation packet. So the first thing I'd like to talk to you about is actually on the longer sheet. It's called the Real Estate Group Boycotts and Antitrust Law. It was written by Francis Ackerman, who is actually an attorney general here in the state of Maine. And it was written a few years ago, but it's still good law. Antitrust is both a federal law and a state law. It is complied with on a state level, but also can be looked into if there's an allegation at the federal level. Our state assistant attorney general wrote this from the state's perspective, but it's the same as the Sherman Antitrust Act, which is the federal law. So what the piece that's in front of you is really about is something called group boycott. If you step back for a minute and think about what the antitrust law is all about, it is allowing the free market marketplace, the free enterprise marketplace, to work. It's allowing people to have a business and be in business and not have other people take steps as a group which might put them out of business. That's group boycott. And it also allows the consumer part of the marketplace to have choice, so that not everyone is getting together and saying, this is the only way we're going to offer businesses, and therefore consumers, when you come shop from us, this is all you get, because we've gotten together and said this is how it's going to work. So those are the two pieces of the Sherman Antitrust Act and the State Antitrust Act that we want to focus on. This particular piece written by Francis Ackerman is actually on the group boycott. So I'll speak to that first, and then we'll talk about the freedom of the marketplace piece. So group boycott is really when two or more people who are not in the same firm together get together, however nefariously or innocently, get together and say, let's treat this other member of our business in a certain way. We don't like what they're doing, we don't like their ads, we don't like their business structure, whatever it is, we think that it's not good for us, and so let's, you and me, get together and treat them in a certain way that makes them unable to compete with us, because we're not going to either let them show our properties, we're not going to pay them in a competitive manner, we're not going to return their phone calls, we're not going to whatever. That group boycott is important to distinguish from a decision within one firm, one real estate firm, about how they want to do business. So the difference here is if one or more people from two firms gets together and makes a decision about a third person, then that, if that is impacting their ability to do a business, to do business in the marketplace, then that becomes a group boycott. But if two people in the same firm, or everyone in the same firm, gets together and says that they want to offer certain compensation, work in a certain way, then that's okay, because it's within the firm. It's when everyone gets together and treats another firm in a certain way that would be a group boycott. So that's a concern. And then the other one, that's group boycott of antitrust. The other piece of antitrust is price fixing. Price fixing is when one or more firms gets together and says, I can't make a living at these prices, what do you say if? Or don't you think the market would allow us to do whatever? And so they end up putting together some kind of if we all do it, it'll be okay. That takes away that consumer choice I was talking about. So and this is true in any industry, if I were to call my colleagues that do title services, as I do, and I would say to my colleagues, let's all charge whatever, because I think that we can get away with it as long as we all stick together. Absolute antitrust problem, because we've taken away the ability of the consumer to have meaningful choice within the marketplace. No one can go to me and say, what's your price, and then go to my competitor and say, what's your price, and make a price decision, because there are no other prices available. Gasoline stations, other people that offer consumer products, they all have to be careful of this. So the way that it impacts our industry is that we want to be sure that there are meaningful choices within the marketplace for consumers to be able to say, what can you do for me if I list my home with you? How will you market it? What can you provide? And then what's the price going to be? And then be able to have some chance of going around to other offices and finding out what they can offer, and maybe they offer something that's a little different in terms of the menu of choices of products that could be offered, and the price could also be different. So in either of these instances, if you find yourself at lunch, at a meeting, standing in the kitchen of a home while the buyers are looking around it, if that conversation comes up, you need to immediately stop the conversation. It's inappropriate. This is whether you are talking about a competitor and how to treat them together, group boycott, or talking about pricing and how to perhaps have the same pricing, that's price fixing, both antitrust, The rule of thumb has always been, if you're in a meeting and it comes up, make a scene, break a glass, tip over your water, something, and say you're not going to be party to that kind of a conversation, and leave the room. The idea of the spilled water is that people will remember that you made a big deal about this and you extricated yourself from the conversation in a way that will stand out in their minds. So that's the way to react to it. If you have people in the marketplace, and this happens occasionally, I'll hear people, at a dinner or at a party say, well, doesn't everybody charge the same thing? No, they don't. And that is so true these days. What you charge is a matter of conversation with your designated broker. It is a matter of what your office policy is with regard to commissions, and it is totally appropriate for you to have those conversations in your office. It's just outside of the office that you can't do that. So one of the issues that we're always concerned about is people saying, and you'll see this if you call me on the hotline, which I know you've heard about, but on the hotline, what I'll say to people when they call me and say something about a 50-50 commission split, there is no appropriate way for that to be a correct commission split, because in fact, 50% of what? And that's why we say you need to be offering something that is a real number based on the sales price through Maine listings, and that number is all that the buyer's agent or the transaction broker or the seller sub-agent needs to know about. There is no such thing anymore as saying, oh, I work on 50-50 or 60-40, because that assumes that the seller sub-agent, buyer's agent, or transaction broker must know what the underlying commission is, because they're the same. They're not. And that's just the way this market has been working for a number of years. So all that you offer is, and all you know that you are able to claim, is what's been offered through the Maine listings, multiple listing service, which would be based on a percentage of the sales price. Okay, so let's move on now to fair housing, and that is the equal opportunity in housing brochure that you have in front of you. Fair housing is a very old issue. It actually goes back to, again, federal laws. This is the Civil Rights Act of, I think it was 1866, and many laws since that time that have updated and changed the original fair housing laws. It is based on the premise that all Americans have the right to have fair, decent, and safe housing, and that they cannot be denied housing based on certain protected classes. So those protected classes are things such as ethnicity, religion, race. They are in a protected place where there can no longer be someone who comes in and says, I want housing, and the real estate broker would say, well, then I think you'd be happiest in this particular neighborhood. The reason they're saying you'd be happiest in that neighborhood is perhaps based on race, perhaps based on nationality, and that is totally inappropriate, that all housing is available to all persons regardless of race, creed, color, ethnicity, and those protected classes. So when the laws were passed, it affects both advertising, also the extension of credit, so that no one can be denied credit at a lender based on the same protected classes. They also are not able to advertise, so you can't ever put an ad into a newspaper, nor will it be accepted into the multiple listing service if it has some of the key words in it that might look like it is steering someone to a certain neighborhood or giving a signal that this house would be best suited for a certain type of person or not for another type of person. So there actually are programs that get run that pick up certain words that could be a problem. School is one of them. Because if you're advertising that this is in the neighborhood of a parochial school, is that sending a neighborhood that others shouldn't be interested in it because it's really best suited for someone who might go to that school? So those kinds of things are looked at, whether or not it has a certain income level that is hinted at, those kinds of issues will be picked up oftentimes in these word searches, both by newspaper advertising departments as well as by the Maine listings folks, because they do run certain programs on that issue. If you find yourself in a situation where you've got a seller who says, I prefer not to sell to one of those people, you need to really think through what they mean by those people and explore that issue. If it's those people include someone from a protected class, perhaps an ethnic group, then you need to explain to the seller that that's inappropriate conduct, that you cannot be part of that, nor can they, that you won't be able to take the listing. And then you need to be a judge and really involve your designated broker in this decision. You need to be a judge of whether the seller's going to say, oh, fine, and then is going to discourage or be negative or simply refuse to consider offers from someone from that protected class. But when a seller says, I'm not going to sell to one of those people, they could mean somebody related to their ex-wife. So really you need to explore that and make sure that you understand what their interest is and explain to them. And there are listings you might need to walk away from at some point. I mean, that is simply one of those things that you'll have to make a judgment call on. If you think that the people really do plan to discriminate, you can't be party to that. What if you have no idea and you end up showing the property to a member of a protected class and the seller either isn't there but finds out later or acts out in a way that while you're there that they're horrified and they can't possibly sell to those people? You need to immediately straighten them out, tell them that's inappropriate, not only inappropriate, it's illegal, you can't be part of it, and you're going to have to extricate yourself from the listing situation if you can't turn them around. So that's a problem. I sometimes get calls on the hotline about, I just had one recently, in fact, about a feud with a next door neighbor, and can we exclude that person from buying the home? If they make an offer, can we fail to accept that offer? What if it's full price? Or you'll find, I've got a listing, but they said they don't want their ex-wife anywhere near the property. Is that okay? Isn't that discrimination? Isn't that a fair housing problem? The fundamental question that you always need to ask is the person who's being excluded from housing a member of a protected class? If they are a member of a protected class, then the presumption is that they were denied housing because of their race, creed, color, ethnicity, whatever that might be. There can be an overcoming of the presumption, like, yes, my ex-wife might be a member of this particular nationality, but here's the situation, I can't have her, you know, there's a protection from abuse order with our child and I can't have her living next door. I mean, you can overcome the presumption, but there certainly is a presumption of a discriminatory behavior when a member of the protected class is denied housing. So it is something that you absolutely want to stay away from. We have had instances in Maine where there have been testers, where people come in posing as buyers, and there'll be a couple who will come in and pose as a buyer member of a certain protected class, and then another buyer who is not in a protected class comes in and they compare on how they were treated, how they were greeted, what homes were they offered, what kind of information were they given, how many showings were they allowed, you know, this kind of information. So it's imperative to treat everyone the same. This is true whether or not you're in strictly sales of real estate, but also in rentals of real estate. The big issue in the rental of real estate would be to make sure if you ask young women in an apartment certain questions and have them fill out an application, that young men have to do the same thing. You can't discriminate against the men because you think they're going to party. You need to be sure that you treat them exactly the same. Check all the same number of references, get the same security deposit, etc. So equal housing is an issue that you need to be concerned about. Every once in a while, this is rare, but in Maine you'll find an old list of restrictions and covenants that will say a certain protected class is prohibited from living in the neighborhood. You simply ignore that. They're illegal on their face. When I or some other title company do your deed up for the seller, that's going to be deleted. It simply doesn't exist anymore. It's an illegal covenant. The final issue that I wanted to speak with you about is trademarks, and that's the third brochure that you have. Trademarks are the use of the name Realtor and the Realtor logo, which is the large R. We call it the block R. You see lots of examples of the block R in your handout. Sometimes the violations that we see around the block R are trying to gussy it up, trying to put it in with another logo, trying to somehow meld it into the logo for your business, trying to put a border around it. It has to be used exactly as it appears, in the colors as they appear. And it's not just the block R, it also has the word Realtor underneath in all caps. So Realtor and the block R is one logo that is trademarked, it is protected, and it must be used in the way that it appears. The other problem area in using the trademark, and don't ever mix up the fact that you are a real estate licensee under the Maine Real Estate Commission, and that is your profession as licensed. But you are a member of the largest trade organization in the world. We are a professional trade association, largest in the world. I use that when I lobby on your behalf at the legislature all the time. It's incredibly impressive. And you are a member of this organization because you have applied for membership and you hold yourself out to their high standards. You've aspired to the Code of Ethics. You've agreed that you will abide by the Code of Ethics. And therefore, you get to use not just the word licensee or agent or broker or sales agent, but you get to say, I'm a realtor and I'm a member of this very large and very impressive and very incredibly powerful organization. So when you use the word, it needs to be separated from your name by a comma. I'm not Realtor Linda Gifford or Linda Gifford Realtors if that were my business. It would have to be Linda Gifford, comma, Realtor. And that is how that gets used. And of course, the Realtor is supposed to be all capitalized with the R in the circle, the registered trademark, in the little circle after that. Use that correctly every time that you can. I know in some programs, some newspapers, for instance, we're always having a hard time getting them to do all caps and with the registration mark afterwards. But anytime that you can, try to do that. And then when you use it in a website or an email address, of course, it's hard. You can't put the comma in usually, and you can't do the all caps. Remember that using it with the word Realtor with your name is fine as long as it's your full name, and it can be before your name or after your name, at whatever your email address is. What is inappropriate is to use it as an adjective. So Realtor Linda is inappropriate, but Realtor Linda Gifford is fine, or Linda Gifford, comma, Realtor is fine. The other thing that is inappropriate, and we do send letters out advising people when they do it wrong a lot, but the other thing that is inappropriate is to use it with a description. So, for instance, bestaugustarealtor.com. That's inappropriate because it is not my name and it has to be my full name. It is trying to use a place name and it's trying to use some kind of a descriptive adjective with the word realtor. That is inappropriate. So use the trademark often, wear it with pride, use it in your with your name and in your advertising with pride. It really does set you apart, and you should oftentimes refer to yourself as a realtor, because you are a realtor member, and you can do that, and be sure that others don't use it inappropriately. And with that, we've covered the 3 legal issues for your new member orientation. Welcome, and remember the hotline. If you do have hotline questions, you can direct those to me through the Maine Association of Realtors, which is 622-7501. Thank you very much.